Hey everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. Today I am doing another Rina Kent vlog, but I'm so excited because we're finally at the series that started this journey all off. I started reading Rina Kent's backlist in order to kind of read all the parents, because this series that she had come out with was second generation. So I decided I want to read all her backlist in her reading order. And I finally made it. So we're at the Legacy of God series. So in this vlog, I am going to be reading God of Malice. I was skipping a couple. So in this, I'm going to be reading God of Malice, and then I'm going to be reading God of Pain. So I am so excited to read these two and get started with this series that really has been hyped. Everybody's loving it. So anyways, I will check back in with you once I start reading God of Malice. And I am so excited for this one because I've heard so much about it. It's really giving me sounds like Carter Mahoney vibes. So we'll see if he can compare, but probably not. You know, nobody can compare with Carter Mahoney for me. All right. Anyways, I will see you guys and check in once I get started. Hey guys, so I am here with my first check-in on God of Malice. So I am really enjoying this. I actually was having a hard time reading a book that I was doing for the readathon. It was Why Choose Gothic. It's the Company of Fiends, and I couldn't take it. Like, it was so boring. It was just smut after chapters and chapters of just smut. And I said, fuck this, and I DNF'd it at 30%, and I had this book just sitting there waiting for me to get to, so I think it made it even worse that I was just like, I don't have patience for this. I want to get to God of Malice. So anyways, here it is, God of Malice. I actually have my annotated version that I'm reading from Jen, which is always great. So, obviously it would be easy to read it on my Kindle, but I also want to be able to, you know, read Jen's comments and stuff. So I have to say too that the, the cover model on this is my favorite cover model of all time. Maybe except like Broken Vow is my other one from Sophie Lark, but like I freaking love this guy. Like, I love him. He's gorgeous. Like, look at that face. He's perfect. So anyways, I am reading God of Malice. I am about 30% through. And I'm enjoying it. It's really reminding me of Untouchable, but I'm not as in love with it as I was with Untouchable. Like, I just think Sam Mariano did it in like a more nuanced way of introducing a psychopath and kind of how he thinks. I do think some of this is a little heavy-handed with the way Rina Kent is kind of pushing he's a psychopath down our throats, but I don't really mind it. She's, you know, she wants to make sure her audience gets that this guy has zero emotions, no empathy. He is a true psychopath. I mean, even at the beginning, she says, Killian Carson, the main character of God of Malice, is a true psychopath. It's not a make-believe or a story of a bad boy who's eventually tamed. He's a villain with very questionable actions, so if you can't handle morally black characters, please do not proceed. Well, you know, I can handle morally gray characters. They're my favorite, so I definitely can't proceed. But in this, if you don't know, in God of Malice, this is an introduction to the second generation for characters that I've read this all Rina Kent's backlist to get to these kids. So what's cool is she does have like a family tree here that you can kind of look at. Jen was nice enough to mark the characters in here for me. So I kept flipping back to this because that's one thing that's kind of crazy in this. There's all these kids introduced. It's kind of reminding me, not fully of it, but of like the bully, the the Kingmaker series where it's like a bunch of these kids at like these different schools. So they're like on this island, and it's two different schools. Like one's kind of like the American kids, and they're more like the mafia type of kids and stuff like that from Rina Kent's books. And then the other one is like more the royal elite, like the rich British ones. So you kind of have these two rival schools on this island, and that's where this is kind of set at. So it was giving me those vibes. Then it was giving me very Untouchable vibes, because in this we have, sorry, I just forgot her whole name, Glendon. And Glendon is actually the daughter of Levi and Astrid King, and that's like the book 0 of the Royal Elite series that I absolutely love. I'm so glad I went back, because I never read that one at first. I just read the regular series, and I thought, oh, I don't need the 0 one. But I went back and read that one, and I'm glad I did, because I loved it. I had given it 5 stars. I really love Levi, and I thought it was great. So this is their daughter, and she also has twin brothers, Landon and Brandon, who you can tell, and I've heard about this series a lot, are going to be important characters in this series. So she is, you know, British from the Royal Elite type of school type of thing, and she, in the opening of this book, we have a pretty crazy introduction to these two meeting each other, because she's basically in a very dark place. She's almost thinking about unaliving herself. She's not fully there yet. One of her friends had unalived himself, and, you know, I think he drove off this cliff. And so she had snuck out like at 2 in the morning and was out there on this cliff. And she kind of is in a dangerous position and is about to fall, kind of thing. And who saves her? But our hero, which I don't know if we should really call him a hero, but his name's Killian, which is like, I always love Killians. They're always the psychos or the morally gray heroes in these books. But Killian comes upon her, and he like kind of grabs her, but like takes pictures of her while she's almost falling. And she's like, can you help me? Like, what the fuck? And he kind of was like, okay, yeah, I'll help you, but you need to do something for me. And so he basically kind of threatens her, like, I can let you drop, or you can, you know, suck my dick. And that's is reminding me very much of Carter Mahoney. So she's kind of forced into this position, because at one point he's even like, if it's not your mouth, then it's your other holes. Like, which one do you want? And so she's kind of forced, like he forces her to her knees, like at the edge of the cliff, so that if she doesn't do it, he's kind of pushing her outwards. It's a very precarious situation for her. She's never given a blowjob before, so she's like so overwhelmed. I mean, she's a virgin. She's a virgin. And Killian is a dark motherfucker. And Killian's parents are actually, the people from like the duet where it was Rina and Asher, and those were like her sister is the twin that is also involved in the mafia and stuff. So I'm glad I read all these characters, because now I'm kind of knowing each family a little bit better. So he's got great parents that have tried to be supportive and everything to him, but he is a psychopath. And so he kind of masters this look of like being normal or faking it or trying to copy people's emotions. But he really doesn't give a fuck. And he knows who he is, and he's ruthless. And so he's very fascinated by, I forget, is it Glenn? I keep forgetting how to say her name. Glendon. Okay, sorry. He's very fascinated by Glendon and this whole thing that happened. He knows who she is. She didn't know who he was. So when he walks away, he says her name, and she's like, what the F? Like, how does this guy know who I am? And then lo and behold, he is actually going to the rival school, and kind of in their similar type of groups that are now running into each other more. So now it's kind of setting up these interactions between them because he's not done with her. He's fascinated, and now he has a new obsession. So again, all of this stuff felt very similar to Untouchable, because in that Carter Mahoney becomes very zeroed in on his woman and obsessed with her and goes after her however he wants to. He manipulates, he does what it takes to get the girl. I think Killian seems a little worse, like a little bit worse than Carter is. More of a psychopath. And I think, because Carter Mahoney hasn't like killed anybody or done anything bad. I don't know if Killian has, but he's part of this like group, like this secret group that supposedly the way in is to like draw blood or do something like that. So who knows what he actually has been up to in his life. And so it's interesting because I'm glad I also read those books, because there's so many of these kids that I'm like, who are you? Like, I kept having to go back to like the family tree to figure out whose kids were what. And they're all going to be important in this series. So I'm just constantly kind of going back to check it out. I was honestly fascinated to see how Adrian's, I'm sorry, not Adrian. Adrian is the mafia one, but how Aiden from Royal Lee, him and Elsa's kids would be. And his kids are Eli King and Creighton King. And Creighton King is like very, he's giving me major Aiden vibes, but he's very quiet and methodical, and he like likes to underground fight. So they have like this whole like underground like fighting thing that he does. So it's interesting. So I'm only 30% in, and it's just kind of setting up this world. So I'm interested. And then we get introduced, so you get introduced to other characters. Like we get Annika, who is actually Jeremy's sister, and Jeremy is the son of Adrian. So he's part of the Bratva series that I read, that trilogy. Not my favorite trilogy, but I loved Jeremy. He was like the sweetest kid. And he does not seem sweet anymore. So I'm like, but he is going to be part of the Bratva. So he kind of has to be ruthless. So anyways, I'm not saying much here. I'm all over the place, but I'm enjoying it. It's, giving you those dark, bully, psychopath vibes. And the thing is with Lyndon, she's turned on by this, but she's trying not to act like she is. But like at one point he says he's going to break into her room and do stuff to her while she's asleep. And she wakes up to him like doing stuff to her. And then she kind of like closes her eyes and he's gone. And so she's like, was that a dream, a nightmare? Was that really happening? I'm thinking it really happened because it seems like something he would do. But he is very obsessed with her right now, very zeroed in on her. So that's kind of where I'm at. She just was talking to Annika about like that secret group. Like it seems like a secret society club thing, and there's like an initiation that's about to happen from the American guys that are kind of shady. And she was bringing up how this one guy didn't make it in, and he drove himself off a cliff. And so Glendon was like devastated because she's like, that was her friend. So she thinks like whatever they did to him may have been responsible for him like doing that. I think there's more to him killing himself, because I was like wondering if they had made a pact or done it together. She's gotten weird texts saying that she should have done it too. And so I don't know if that's really gonna be Killian doing that or not, because Killian's been texting her from an unknown number, but it's different than the number that was texting her. So anyways, I'm enjoying it. I'm already talking too much, and I don't want to make this vlog too long because I want to cover 2 of the books. So I am having a great time with this. I'm glad I dropped that shit book that I was reading and picked this one up, because I am doing a collab that's going to already be up by the time I put this vlog up, of favorite dark romances that Becky from Bex Reads put on. So I want to add this to the list, but I got to film that one tomorrow. So I got to read this fast. So I will be checking back in with you once I get like 50, 60% through the book. Hey guys, so I am back with another check-in. I'm actually doing a bunch of filming today. So I'm just going to do my check-in here already. I'm about 60% through God of Malice, and I'm really enjoying it. I was about to film this. I'm about to film this like favorite dark romances. So I kind of wanted to finish it before then to maybe add it to it, but honestly, I already have enough on that list as it is to narrow down, so I'm not going to make it. But I'm about 60% through this, and some interesting things have happened. Glendon, is that her name? I always forget her name. Is she Glendon? It's so funny. It's such a weird name to me, so I always mess it up. Okay, so Glendon actually gets an invite to that initiation that's happening for like Killian's club that he has, where it's crazy. They wear like those purge mask type of things, and everybody has to show up, and it's like very exclusive that you have to get a texted invite. So somehow she got an invite, even though Killian told her like, you better stay in tonight, be good. She goes to this, and they all have like bunny masks on, and it's kind of like almost like a primal play type of thing, but not really, because they all go on the run, and they like the guys that run this with their purge masks like are basically attacking these people. Like Killian's beating them with a bat, but he happens to almost get her at one point but misses her, and so he's intrigued by this bunny that gets away. So he chases her down. Her mask comes off at one point, and so he realizes it's her, and so they definitely get it on, and things happen. Something interesting happened where Nikolai had like almost caught this guy who was like kind of a skinnier guy, and was like not taking him out completely but choke holding him, and then he shows up again later. So I'm kind of wondering if that's her twin brother or something. I don't know why her twin would be there, but I'm kind of wondering because of other things, but we'll see. So he ends up, they end up hooking up kind of a little bit. Like, I think it was like a blow job in like 69 basically. And then they start walking to like the end. And the end, like you get to the end, you get to be part of this club. And so she's almost there, and he basically taps her with his bat, and she gets disqualified. And so she's pretty pissed off because she wants to be in this club so she can find out what really happened to her best friend. So he, as they're coming up there, this hot girl comes out and starts like kissing up on Killian. And so she's pretty pissed off. She's like, okay, well, I'm going to go. And he's like, if you leave, like, I'm going to fuck her. And she's like, then do it. Like, I don't care, fuck you. And so she leaves. And so she's pretty upset. She doesn't know why she's jealous, why she cares about Killian. She doesn't want to feel these things. So she's pissed off about it. And so like they kind of don't talk for a couple days, but they're kind of both like cyber stalking each other on Instagram, and she's like kind of freaking out. So then she ends up going, okay. So then she ends up going to Gareth, his brother, to try and make a deal, because Gareth at that night had warned her to stay away from Killian, that Killian is basically almost like a serial killer in the making, that one day he's not going to be able to control his urges, and he's dangerous. And it's like he's telling her to stay away from him, and it's like, well, duh, I'm trying to stay away from him. He won't leave me alone. And then she kind of goes to him later like, hey, I can help keep Killian away from you and his attention on me, but I want you to help me find out what happened to my brother. Not my brother, I'm sorry, her best friend that, killed himself. And so he agrees to do that. So she ends up going to this party that's at their thing, and she is like kind of following Gareth to see what he was up to, and he catches her, and he basically like kisses her because he knew Killian was right there, and Killian loses his fucking mind, and he takes her, and they finally have sex. So they have some pretty dominant sex, and she kind of basically has to admit to herself that she does like saying she doesn't want it, so it's out of her hands, and that she actually does want Killian. And so she kind of has to come to that conclusion here. And they have a pretty crazy night. She tries to sneak out, and she overhears some conversations going on And she kind of runs into Nikolai, and Nikolai was like looking at her blurry, and he's like, wait, you're not the one. You're almost him, or like, you're almost the right one or something. So I think he thought it was her brother. I don't know. I might be jumping to conclusions, but I'm thinking, because he's brought up Brandon in the past, so I'm wondering of that. But so there's this funny scene because Nikolai was getting way close to her and almost like in her space and very close to her. And Killian throws a football at his head and he like falls down, and he's just like tells them, she's mine, she's untouchable, don't fuck it. Don't fuck with it. And he like makes out with her all hardcore, takes her back upstairs. And, you know, so that's kind of where I'm at. I just thought that was really funny. Killian is very like wanting them to be together. He puts stuff up on social media so everybody can see them kissing and that she's his. They even have a conversation like kind of about being exclusive, where she's like, I don't want you to have sex with that girl and all that kind of stuff. And there's just very interesting things about Killian, the way his mind works. Then he's like, after they have sex, he's like sitting there staring at her, like wondering why he actually enjoyed it, because sex has been like really boring and methodical to him. He doesn't really care. He doesn't want to care about anybody, and he doesn't really connect. So he doesn't understand why he enjoyed it so much. At one point, he was almost thinking about how he could like choke her out, but she started like touching him, and that like really like affected him of her like touching him. So it's a very interesting place, Killian's mind. But he is definitely obsessed with her, and so we'll see how it continues. So I'm enjoying it so far. I'm hoping I will finish it tonight, and then I can do a final check-in with you guys. All right, see you guys in bed. Hey guys, so I'm here for my final check-in on God of Malice, and I'm checking in many days after I finished it. So this is kind of a disaster because I'm trying to remember all the details. So I'm not going to go into too much details on the end of God of Malice, which is probably better anyways because I've already probably talked a lot about it. But work was freaking insane last week. I had so much going on, and you know, other stuff of filming, and it was just a disaster. Last week I had a collab video that I had to film that I did with, it's already been up by now, with Becky and from Beck's Reads. And I had filmed it on Sunday when I usually do my filming with like 3 other videos, put it on my cloud. My TBR and this collab video didn't, they were like, the file was corrupted or some shit. And so I had to refilm them during like right when I got home from work a couple days. So I was really pissed off last week. So I didn't even get time to like do my check-in, so I'm sorry. This is going to be kind of a half-assed check-in. Final thoughts on God of Malice. Oops, there just went that. Anyways, I am slow. I was kind of trying to flip through my book here to try to remember everything to talk about, so I'm probably going to miss some stuff. I'm sorry, you guys. But I ended up really enjoying this. I really liked looking into Killian's mind, the mind of a psychopath, and kind of how Glendon is like falling in love with him, but she's also like near the end of this book, that's the kind of conflict too, is she's falling in love with him, but she knows he can never really love her. Like, how can a psychopath love her or give her everything that she needs? And so that's kind of an issue that comes into play here. What ends up, a couple big things that happen is, you know, Landon, her brother, ends up threatening him to stay away from his sister. He shows up to, like, I think it was the hospital where Killian works, you know, and he kind of threatened him, and Killian's not scared, and he basically tells Landon to fuck off. He also shows his manipulative behavior because he manages, it's Landon and Brandon, and Landon's the psycho one, but Brandon starts to kind of fall a little bit for his manipulations and kind of get on his side a little bit, which Landon gets pissed off with that. And he ends up like going back with Killian to his place, and they're like, he's playing video games with his sister. And so they're just kind of, or not his sister, his cousin, I think. Yeah, it was his cousin. Sorry. And so, like, they were like hitting it off. And so, and that also gets Killian to get Glendon to come to his place by showing her like a video of her brother over there. But Landon gives him like a deadline, says like, you got 7 days to cut things off and you're not going to want to know what I'm going to do. He like fully keys up his like nice car too, which, you know, he doesn't care. But so later, of course, when that doesn't, obviously Killian is not going to leave Glendon. He gets hit by a car and hears Landon's voice, and it's Landon, and he's like, your 7 days are up. And so he ends up basically kind of kidnapping him with like, I think it was, I'm trying to remember, it's one of the, oh, shoot, is it Aiden's kids? Anyways, he kidnaps him, and he's kind of pretty badly torturing Killian. I mean, full on waterboarding him. But they kind of see it's going too far in certain things, and Brandon gets told about it because one of the other like cousins or whatever was pissed because his other brother was told about it. Anyways, I'm sorry, you guys, I'm not giving you guys names. But anyways, it ends up being Brandon and Glendon come to the rescue, and Glendon like totally defends him and kind of goes off on Landon and tells him how like her and her brother are scared of him and she's tired of treating them like this. And so she finally stands up for herself and says things she hasn't said, and basically shows that she's choosing Killian. So that's like really big to Killian that moment. So that kind of happens. And you know, there's a lot of back and forth in this dynamic in this relationship. But one night I think she was like getting drunk with her friends, and he kind of shows up, and they kind of get into it on something I don't remember. Sorry, you guys. It's been a while. And he ends up like he's gonna take her back home, but when she wakes up after sleeping in the car, he's taking her to a private jet, and he basically decided to kind of kidnap her, kind of take her with him to go home and visit his parents with his brother. So they go, and she basically gets to meet his parents, Asher and Rina, and kind of see that whole dynamic. There's some really hot sex scenes when they're at this house. He doesn't care that they're at his parents' house. He does some kitty slapping in this scene. It's, you know, their sex scenes are always great. And she also kind of sees the dynamic he has with his father, which is not great. His father sees that he's a psychopath and is kind of like leery of him and really holds him accountable and isn't close to him. And Killian had overheard his father basically say like, you know, he kind of wished they had stopped at his brother and like kind of what a psycho he is. And so he's never had a good relationship with him since then. So she kind of helps like them tell the parents about that kind of thing. And then she gets a message later about a video from that secret kind of like stalker person that's been messaging her, and it's a video from like that initiation where Killian is basically telling her friend that killed himself like that he should just kill himself, that kind of a video. And so she's like pissed off, devastated, like, you lied to me, you caused this, and she basically kind of like leaves and goes away. And he has a really good conversation with his parents, kind of having it out on all their issues. And so that was kind of good. And he ends up, you know, kind of go after her. She ends up going to the place where it was the cliff again or whatever. And you get a flashback of the night where her friend killed himself. And you could see this guy was fucked up. Like, he was talking to her like she's nothing. He was very talking down to her and being cruel. And then he ends up just kicking her out of the car and supposedly killing himself. And so she's there thinking about that. And then who shows up but her friend who supposedly killed himself. This is where it's like the Rina Kent outlandish, over the top plot lines that she tends to do that seems so unrealistic. This guy basically had done all this on purpose. And he faked his death, and he's actually Cherry's brother or whatever. So she's been in on like a lot of this stuff going on, and he basically beats the shit out of her, like beats her bloody. and leaves her there. And so when Killian finds her, he's like infuriated, and he finds out the truth, and they basically go after, he's basically trying to start a war between all like the mafia guys and the elites and all this kind of stuff. And they all basically go after this guy, and I think they beat him. I know they left him alive, but I can't fully remember what happened to this guy. But basically, we end with Glyndon and Killian together. There are some pretty cool moments. I'm trying to find. Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, I had to find it. So there's a part where it's like she's kind of asking like if he could love her, or how can they really be together? He'll never love her. And he's like, I love you enough to allow you to hold over me when I've never allowed anyone to have power to destroy me from the inside out. And so like he does have this thing like that he kind of admits that he does love her in his way, and his possessiveness and craziness. He does love her. And he'd been like kind of pushing her the whole book to say that she was his and she would never say it. So near the end, she finally does admit that she is his. And he kind of has, there's a couple chapters here at the end where he meets with her father and they're kind of threatening him. And he's just like, he don't give a fuck. He's like, you can't touch me. I love her. I'm going to be with her. And you guys are just going to have to accept me into your life. So I ended up liking it. I did not love it as much as Untouchable. I just don't think much compares to Carter Mahoney and the way Sam Mariano like builds that type of dark psychological kind of romance. But I really did enjoy this. I thought it was a great introduction to the series because there's so many new characters introduced with the kids and you're trying to figure out who's who. So I am very excited to continue with the series. So I will be reading the next one, and that will be continue this vlog. So I need to stop talking because it's going to be another long vlog again. So again, I love this. I gave it 5 stars. I think I gave it 4.5 chilies. I can't remember. There's a lot of spicy, dubcon, non-con, kitty slapping, somnophilia, like lots of some butt stuff. We got it all going on in here. So not a disappointment at all. So sorry guys, this last check-in is kind of lame, but I promise on the next one I will do better. It was just a shit week for me. So all right, I appreciate you. Thank you for sticking with this vlog, and I will see you once I start the next book. Hey everyone, so I am finally getting back to this vlog. It's taken me forever because I didn't get to this book yet, the second book yet. I had so much to do in October. I did not read all the books on my TBR, and I definitely needed to get to the second book for the Legacy of God series, because I'm trying to do 2 each month to hopefully have it done before the end of the year. But anyways, I have finally started God of Pain, and I was so excited for this one. I'm not super into the whole like spankings and beatings and pain punishment type of kink, but I've been really enjoying this one, and I was really excited because this is Creighton. And Creighton is one of the sons of Aiden King, and Aiden and Elsa are like my favorite couple. I love the original series that I started with, the Royal Elite series. And Aiden and Elsa had like 3 books. So I was really excited that we're getting one of their kids' books. And we get a lot of teasing into the older son, Eli's character. He seems more like Aiden. I think that Creighton is actually adopted. I don't know if everybody knows that though, but I'm pretty sure like it's kind of obvious that he's adopted, at least from like the internal side, but I don't know if the heroine knows. Anyways, what this book is about is Creighton, and we also have, so in the beginning of this, we have, it's cool, she does like the kind of tree and showing each character like the original parents and their kids, the family tree and everything. So in this, it's Creighton, and he's Aiden and Elsa's son. And then we have Anika, I'm guessing, Volkov, which is Adrian Volkov and Leah Morelli's daughter. I did not love Adrian's trilogy, which is funny because now that I think about it, Adrian's whole trilogy is about him being like super BDSM, super punishments, like lots of spankings, but it was like 3 books of it. It was a little excessive. I thought the middle book was pointless. But anyways, it's kind of funny when you think about that, because who does she, like, his daughter become obsessed with? Creighton, who happens to love punishments and inflicting pain. He's kind of, basically, he calls himself a sadist. He really gets off on inflicting pain. He's never been in a relationship. He just goes to like kind of like clubs or whatever, and he'll like punish women with like canes. He likes to, you know, beat them, spank them, you know, all that good stuff. And what's funny about this too is in the previous book, in God of Malice, you see Anika was like immediately like intrigued by him and tried to talk to him. And Creighton is the very much silent, doesn't like speaking. He's very broody, and she talks nonstop. So it's like they're kind of polar opposites, but maybe perfect for each other in that way, because he doesn't want to talk, and he basically like kind of pushes her away and gives her the cold shoulder, and she tries a lot in that book to try to get his attention, and I think she just kind of finally is giving up at that point. But in this book, it's crazy because it starts out with him kind of like, she wakes up in the night, and she was actually staying at her brother's mansion that he stays at, because her brother is Jeremy Volkov. So he's okay, sorry about that. My cat was going to the bathroom always while I'm on the filming. So anyways, you know, her brother is going to be, you know, in the Bratva. He's very overprotective of her, and he'll have her stay with him sometimes. And in the beginning of this book, somebody like was in her room, like went in from the balcony, and he was wearing, you know, a mask, but she recognized his eyes like immediately and knew it was Creighton. And he had set like a fire somewhere else, you know, on the property. And it seems like he's doing this as like for Landon. Creighton had some kind of horrible event happen to him when he was younger that, you know, he calls like the massacre. And I don't know what the story is or what happened, but he's looking for information on that. And so I think Landon kind of is toying with him that he can help get him extra information on this and this if he does what he wants. So that, I think that's kind of why he did it. But he kind of shows up there, you know, and she covers for him because the guards are like pounding on her door, and then he leaves. And so she kind of like goes to him and, you know, is kind of poking the bear a little bit because she's so fascinated by him, is intrigued by him, wants him, and he doesn't want anything to do with her. But she gets him to notice her. So like her kind of constantly, you know, doing this, he becomes intrigued with her and starts to like not stop thinking about her. Like when he goes one night with Landon to one of those clubs to do like some spankings and punishment to get off, he just keeps seeing her, and so that like pisses him off. So he definitely doesn't want to be attracted to her, but he's very intrigued and kind of wants to go there with her. Okay, sorry. I was trying to remember what instigated it even further, and it was this fake dating thing that kind of gets proposed because Nika finds out from her mom that her dad would not really make her. She's always been assumed that she's going to have to do arranged marriage because she's a mafia princess, and her mom said, you know, if you fell in love with somebody, your dad would not make you do that. So her and her friends kind of come up with the thing of having like a fake dating thing so that she could look like she's in love and wouldn't have to marry somebody, or at least like postpone that. And so they're putting up ideas, and they're like, oh, how about Brandon? And when this ends up coming to light, Creighton is not happy about it. And he's like, you are not going to fake date anybody. You're not going to fake date Brandon. But like, yeah, he's not coming up for the role, you know? So she was just like, whatever. So one night they were having a get together and she said, oh, Brandon would be her choice. And Brandon said he would be okay with that. And Creighton was pissed. So he had actually started showing up to the shelter she volunteers at and working there all the time, which she doesn't get because it's like, why are you pushing me away? But then like you keep drawing me back in or, you know, coming to me. And he ends up doing like a punishment for her for doing that. And he like bends her over like dog food and stuff and spanks her pretty hard, making her count like 10. And it was really hot and she was getting really turned on by it. And he was like, you don't get to come, you know, you're being punished, you know, you need to beg for it. And she did. And so that really kind of was like a shock to her. And then like when she got home, they were like, oh, somebody left like this something in the mailbox. And it was kind of stuff to help soothe her beaten butt. And he left it for her. So kind of aftercare, not great at aftercare yet, but he becomes obsessed with her. And so another big thing that happens is a huge fire is breaking out because there's another group called the Serpents, and they're pissed off with the Heathens, their group, after the events of God of Malice. So they actually set like a big fire in the house, and Landon knew about it and was like excited, like, oh, I'm gonna go watch this go down. And you know, he finds out about it and he's freaking out because he knows Anika will be there. And so he shows up and tries to save her. There was a really crazy moment because the house is burning and Jeremy's stuck in his room. He's trapped. And she like won't leave him. And I just love that about her. Anika is just so loyal and sweet and caring and but like feisty. And Creighton shows up and is trying to get her to go. He's literally got like a gas mask on and everything. And so they end up getting him rescued and out. But of course, Nikolai, like he acts first, doesn't really think. And he literally hits Creighton with a bat and knocks him out, and because they think he started the fire. So they were gonna like torture him, and she stops that and basically says that he was with her all night, which then makes Jeremy get pissed later and kind of put her on lockdown. So a lot of stuff is going on with them, and he does another punishment with her, but it's more some kitty slapping later. And then he's just gonna leave, and she's like, you don't just get to treat me like a toy and like leave me, like you need to take me on a date. And so since she's on lockdown, they do like these dates like at the vet, like on the roof, like picnics together, and it's very cute. So now I'm at a part where she went to go. He does these underground fights where they all like fight. And he was going against Nikolai, and she was never allowed to go because her brother wouldn't let her. And so she goes because she wants to see Creighton fight. And his brother shows up. There's something going on with her brother and Creighton's brother Eli and her friend Ava. Like, so I think their book is the last book. So I'm very curious to see what's going on with them. And there's obviously something going on with Brandon and Nikolai, like I thought, because Nikolai was like staring before his fight, but he was like staring like intensely at Brandon, and Brandon was kind of like freaking out a little bit. So that's really exciting. So, but like Eli was like, oh, I want to talk to you, you know, alone to Anika. And after the fight, like immediately Creighton like jumps out of the ring and he comes storming over and grabs her, and he's like, stay away from what's mine, to his brother. So I was like, there we go. So we're starting to establish like an actual relationship with them where it's not just, oh, and he like kissed her when they did like this dancing in the rain together after their picnic, and it was really cute. He'd never kissed anybody because he never saw a point. And so that was really sweet. So there are some sweet stuff coming out of Creighton, you know, but he definitely likes to inflict the pain. So I'm enjoying it. I'm actually enjoying it, I think, more than God of Malice. And I think I was a little nice in my rating for God of Malice because this one's like already better, I think. But anyways, I'm going to keep reading because I'm behind, and I want to try and get halfway through, or a little more than halfway through this tonight. It is a little late right now, and I still have to edit for my posting of my weekly wrap-up tomorrow, so I've got stuff to do. Anyways, thank you. I will see you guys in a bit once I'm a little bit further. Hey, everyone. So I am back to check in. I just got home from work. Didn't get a chance to really read that much today, but I am a little bit over halfway through it. So I'm kind of slow going with this, but it's not the book's fault. I'm really enjoying this book. So some interesting things have happened. When they leave the fight, he's pretty amped up, and they end up like kind of like walking to the beach, and they're like on the big rocks, and the waves are crashing around, and they have a really like deep conversation. Well, deep for them, you know how Creighton is. But he basically like wants her to stay away from his brother Eli, and he's very territorial, and he doesn't trust his brother. And so there's very interesting looks into Eli, which I think we'll see throughout the series in like the last book. But she basically wants to show him like he can give up control and show like trust. And so she basically decides to give him a blowjob right there, which in the previous book, they were playing like Never Have I Ever, I think. And like it was revealed that he'd never gotten a blowjob before. So she really wanted to be like the first one to give him a blowjob. And, you know, he's very about control and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's kind of why he like really never did it. But he really has a great time with her. You know, it's her first time doing it. And then he gets up and he's like, I'm going to face fuck you and it's going to hurt. And he was getting more turned on by how rough he was with her and like making her gag and all that. And she was getting hot. So she's very into everything that Creighton does for sure. So that kind of happens. Then like one night he finds out that she went out with like the group of friends and didn't even tell him. And it turned out she did that because she was kind of annoyed because he like it was going to be her birthday the next day, and she'd asked him if he had plans, and he said yes and didn't really like remember about her birthday. And so she felt stupid. She's like, I'm being immature. And so she just went out with the friends. And then of course, like I think Landon like threw it in his face, and he had to get there immediately. He was like, why are you out with them, you know, at a club? He was very jealous. And so he kind of takes her off, and they go back to his place, and they finally have sex, and it's really hot. You know, he does some punishing, some kitty slapping. He really likes that. And he ends up doing some aftercare with her in the bathtub afterwards. And he ends up telling her about his past and about how he was abused. He didn't really have food as a child. His father had died, and I think his mom was like abusing him. She was a drunk, and she would beat on him. And she ended up like deciding they were going to go be with daddy now that his dad died. And so she hung herself and then like had the gas on to kill him. So he has a very tragic past, and he's trying to figure out stuff or get like vengeance or something with it, and that's why he's working with Landon. So we'll see what happened in his past. But like he didn't like her showing empathy and like being emotional about it, so he ended up punishing her and screwing her pretty hard like the rest of the night. So they're really bonding. They're spending like all this time together. They're really falling for each other. Like she really feels like she's in love with him, but she's scared to tell him. So, you know, they like, I'm just bypassing a bunch of stuff, but they end up, okay. So, they were out one night, and they were kind of like holding hands. I think they were like shopping or whatever and kissing. And then her brother runs into them, and he is livid, and he like takes her off with him. And Creighton's like, you don't get to take her away from me. He's like, she's mine, and you're too late. It's already a thing. You can't stop us. And so her brother, like Jer, basically takes her back to his place, and she fights back for the first time in ever. Oh my God, my cat just jumped on my car and is meowing because I haven't let him in the house yet. And he's like, you know, My cat is distracting me. So she fights back and he was like, okay, let's go home, visit dad. And if dad doesn't have a problem with him, then I'll let it go. And because he knows that her dad is even more protective than he is and that he won't be cool with it. So basically, she's just flown home with him and they're visiting the parents. So we get to see Adrian and his wife again. Oh my gosh, look at this. What? What? My cat is cracking me up. I think he's hungry. Okay, I need to finish this up. Oh my gosh, my cat is so freaking cute. Okay, so now she's back at home, and then what was crazy is she was like staring longingly at one of her pictures of Creighton, and her mom saw it and went like ghost white, like it was a ghost, and was like freaking out and kind of looked super shady. So I think she's gonna have some kind of ties to Creighton and maybe like what happened to his family. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm really loving this. Now he's on the roof looking down. I'm really loving this, but I'm going to go get my cat in and I will check in back with you once I finish the book. Hey everyone, so I am here with my final check-in on this vlog, and I have a feeling like this is like might be an hour-long vlog or something. I can't remember how long I talked about God of Malice for, but I've talked quite a bit about God of Pain. So if you're still with me, thank you so much for watching this video. But I did finish God of Pain last night. And I think I really enjoyed this more than God of Malice. I really had a great time with this. I think part of the reason that I loved this one so much, and I might be this just because I'm partial to Aiden King, and that was Creighton's father. So there's an annoying ass bird out here right now. Anyways, so much happened in the last third of this book. Like, it was crazy. It was action packed. I mean, so much goes on and in a chaotic, kind of crazy, turbulent way that Rina Kent just does really well for some reason. So honestly, like, it was crazy. I even like wrote notes as I was going on because I'm like, I'm not gonna remember all the shit that went down. So I may gloss over some of the stuff in the final conflict kind of thing, but okay, so basically where we left off is she went home to try and talk her parents into letting her be with Creighton, whatever. And so she is trying to get her mom on her side. And her mom sees a picture of him and freaks out and immediately turns her tune of like, you can't be with him, and won't explain why. And it's just not good and you need to stay away from him. And so Anika's like pretty fucking pissed. And then she finds out that Jer and her mom like kind of already talked to her dad and that he doesn't want her seeing him. And she's like just feels betrayed by her mom because her mom told her that she would, you know, help her be with somebody that she loves. And here she's saying, I love Creighton. And she's saying you can't be with him. So then all of a sudden Jer's like, we have to go home now, because go back to the school now because Nikolai has been kidnapped. And you kind of think, okay, I think I know who's behind the kidnapping. While she's there visiting, Creighton, you know, basically kind of goes to Eli about things. And Eli's like, I know you're up to no good with Landon. And he kind of knows Landon's trying to get information on what happened to his parents and all that kind of stuff and making Creighton do shit. And so he's like, we can get the information. So they kind of follow and they figure out that Landon is getting one of the guards that work for Jeremy and their Heathens crew. They're like getting information out of him. So they follow that guy, that guard, beat the shit out of him, and they get the truth. And so Creighton finds out the truth about what happened to his parents. And it all ties back to Adrian's series, because in that series, the mom kind of like lost her mind a little bit and forgot who she was and thought she was a completely different person and was like living on the streets at one point, and she was a homeless. And so the guy that was like a politician that kind of ran that homeless shelter like tried to rape her, like sexually assault her. And of course, Adrian was not having that, so he butchered him. And that was Creighton's father. And so the mother was involved with a bunch of the stuff to help him get girls. So Adrian was like basically focusing on ruining their lives and breaking her down. And so that led to her being abusive and him living in a really bad situation. And then again, her killing herself. She hung herself and then left the gas on to murder him. And so Creighton's like, why, like, he gets so pissed, he like beats the shit out of Landon. He's like, you knew I was talking to the girl that's her parents that are the reason I am who I am. And Landon's like, I warned you away from her. Landon is such a fucking asshole in this series, dude. So I'm really nervous for Landon's book. But so that kind of goes down while she's away. And so when she comes back to, Jeremy is showing up at that place to get Nikolai back. Nikolai has been kidnapped. He's kind of been beaten a little bit. He's down like the basement or whatever. And one of the most precious moments is Creighton sees Brandon sneaking down there in the night, and Brandon is like trying to free him, and Nikolai was, I think he called him his like lotus flower or something like that, and you could just tell they had something going on. And so I just can't wait to get to their book. Like, that's my most anticipated book in this series. Like, I can't wait to get to it. So of course Creighton stops him, and then when Jer shows up, it's like Creighton has like a knife to Nikolai's throat, and Nikolai is such a crazy bastard. He like pushes his neck into it, like, I'm not gonna be your weakness, Jer. And you know, they didn't want to really hurt Nikolai like that, so they had to like get him out of there and rush him to the hospital. And so Creighton is like basically holding Jeremy, and she shows up, and he is like stabs him and is like not gonna let it go. He wants revenge, and she whips out a gun and she's like, you told me not, asked me if I would choose, and she's basically threatening him, and he won't stop. So she shoots him, but she shoots him like in the chest. And there was a part earlier in the book where she says like she never missed. Her dad taught her how to shoot because she had been a mafia princess, had multiple attempts, like kidnappings, all that kind of stuff. So her dad really taught her how to protect herself, and she's an expert, like, marksman kind of thing. So it's kind of like she could have killed him. Like they said, if it was like a couple inches over, he could have been shot in the heart, all that kind of stuff. But she's like goes into shock and freaks out because she shot Creighton, and her brother gets her out of there, and basically like they both have to go to the hospital. She wants to go see him, and basically everybody hates her from what happened. They're hiding the truth until Creighton wakes up. They're pretending like he got robbed, and then like Creighton can decide what to do. But it was a really sad moment because like Ava comes up and like full on slaps her and is like, you don't belong in our group, we trusted you, all that kind of stuff. So then she has a kind of confrontation with Aiden. So I love this part because you get to see Aiden and Elsa as parents, and I just love Aiden so much. He's one of my favorite Rina Kent heroes. He's so unhinged and psycho and obsessive for his woman, and I just love him. It's getting dark out here already. I was trying to fit this in time before the sun went down, but it's down and it's cloudy out, so let me rush this. So sorry if the lighting's off. But that was a pretty crazy confrontation. And then like when he's kind of threatening her a little bit, like the way Aiden would do for his loved ones, Adrian comes up and full on puts a gun to his head and is like, you don't talk to my daughter like that. And it was just crazy seeing like Aiden and Adrian show off, because like Aiden was like not even phased, didn't even show a reaction. And she's kind of shocked because her father is one of the most dangerous Bratva criminals, and Aiden wasn't even phased because Aiden is pretty much kind of like a psychopath a little bit here. So anyways, she gets taken back to the US, and Creighton was like in a coma. He eventually does wake up and he's, on the mend and everything, but Aiden realizes like he really wants his girl back, and he's like, you need to go after her. You need to do what you have to do to get your woman back. And he was kind of shocked, thinking he wouldn't be okay with it. He's like, I already told her off and what I felt, but if you want your woman, if you think she's it for you, you need to do what it takes. So that leads him into basically kind of kidnapping her and taking her to his grandpa's like private island. And that's like a long, kind of a little bit drawn out part of the book. But basically it's him kind of punishing her, but having sex with her and basically wanting her to choose him. The whole thing is like he basically wanted her to kill him. He's had a lot of, hatred towards himself and who he is and how he's been made. And so he just kind of wanted it to end. And then the fact that she chose her brother over him just like devastated him. And so, he wants her to choose him. So they're spending like, I don't know if it's like a month, it's weeks on the island together, just having sex, blah, blah, blah. But she wants him to move on from the past and for them to be together in a different way and be able to be with their families. And he doesn't want that. So it finally gets to the point where he's willing to kind of like let her go home or whatever. And that's when Adrian shows up on the island with a bunch of his military dudes, and a big, confrontation goes on. And she basically takes a gun and points it at her head and is like, I'm not choosing you. I'm not choosing my whatever. I'm choosing me. And Creighton manages to talk her out of doing anything, and that he will move on past this revenge and they're going to be together. So it's a big mess with these families and the history and everything, but Creighton manages to like woo her mom and get her mom on his side. Adrian's watching his ass, doesn't trust him. And him and Jeremy kind of have an agreement, and so they are together. She's kind of mended her friendships with the crew, and now they're together. And then it does a good epilogue, a little bit later. And so I just really love this. I love seeing Creighton like be the quiet, like crazy, loves to inflict pain, but he like, is gone for his woman. So I loved this book. Sorry, this is such a long vlog. But I ended up giving this one 5 stars, and I gave it, I think, 4 chilies or 4.5 chilies. It is spicy, so there's some crazy butt stuff going on. He uses lots of toys on her. It is spicy. It is great. I love Creighton, and it was so great to see Aiden again. And I'm very fascinated by Eli, his brother, and to see what his book is like. So I'm definitely so excited that I'm finally at this series, and I'm happy that I read the backlist, because you just have a much more appreciation of the history and the parents because you read their books. Anyways, I'm losing light, so I got to end this vlog. Thank you so much for watching this. I know this is super long, and I appreciate any of you that stick with me to the end. So I will be going on to the next 2 on my next vlog, and I can't wait to continue my journey. All right, you guys, thank you so much. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will see you on my next Rina Kent vlog.